early 30s. And so this is a transmission, calling it the Living Wisdom Code, Ayurveda one-on-one, and how to get in touch with back to your own nature with the Ayurvedic way. So I'll invite you, if you have any questions or something doesn't feel right, you can type it in the chat. Christina, I still want to make sure you're there before I begin. You're not responding, so I'm just going to go ahead anyway. So, okay, so Ayurveda. This may be new to you, maybe not, but we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about it, or I'm going to be spending a little bit of time talking about it. Oh no, it's not working for you? How come? Oh, deep breath. I wonder, maybe, Christina, yeah, so you can watch the replay. Yes. And any questions you can ask me also. Ask me privately. Okay, so Rose and Emily, Christina will send you love. Okay, so we're gonna take this back, all the way back to 5,000 years ago, which is where Ayurveda was first born, and in the land of India. And the beautiful thing about Ayurveda is that it translates to the balance of life. So Ayur, by definition, is life, and Veda is knowledge. And so knowledge of life. And so in a very simple way, in a very simple context, Ayurveda teaches us to understand our own nature. And so by doing so, that we can apply it to our lives and bring balance, because this is what we want. We want to reach a place of balance. And so this is by way of meditation, chanting, sound, because as we're seeing nowadays, breath work and sound healing are massive. And this can also be rooted back to Ayurveda, because Ayurveda believes that everything came from sound, from the Anstrak sound of everything, which is Om. And so the more we go back to understanding our nature, so this is why if you had any imbalances before entering perimenopause, even before perimenopause, there's a premenopause. So there's actually an earlier stage before we even reach perimenopause. So if you had any imbalance in your life, whether it is like Rose, for example, for you, that you're already experiencing some sort of imbalance in your sensitivity and so on and so forth, everything is exasperated when you enter the waves of perimenopause. So everything's a little bit more enhanced. So any of the fidgety sensations, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, anything that was a little bit out of whack, is going to be even more intense in perimenopause. So this is why if we can catch it, or if we can tune into that and find ways in which you can come back into balance to your own nature, because we're all slightly different. So the idea is that the more we understand what things bring us out of balance, the more we can tune in. So this is the beauty of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is also the sister science to yoga. A lot of people don't know that. So Ayurveda and yoga come from the exact same place. In fact, one of the Vedas, which is would so the word Ayurveda and the is its knowledge, and this is stemmed 4 ancient books where all the knowledge as we know it stems from, whether it's social systems, whether it's, of course, healing, um, medicine, architecture, um, everything that we know is rooted into one of these 4 books. And all these books are also subdivided. Everything's subdivided in Ayurveda. One of these 4 main books is subdivided into a book that is precisely called or calls you to do self-healing. So we are able to self-heal ourselves by knowing our nature. So yoga and Ayurveda are sister sciences. Yoga is the science of self-realization, and Ayurveda is the science of self-healing. So, and together, because they work together, and we will arrive at understanding that if we get on the wave of yoga or Ayurveda, at some point we need to merge the two. And that creates a balancing art form, lifestyle. So I mentioned that briefly in our circle, that it all comes down to lifestyle. It's how we soothe our life and the tools that we use, which is what Ayurveda offers. And so in the Vedic period, which is where the Vedas were written, everything was very pure, of course. And in the ancient scriptures say that everything is cyclical. So Ayurveda teaches us that everything works in cycles and rhythms of nature. And that's the beauty of it. And also is very elemental. So Ayurveda as a science, equally as yoga, is rooted into the science of the elements. So this comes way back to just keeping everything simple, simple, simple. And balance is achieved by not fighting the body, but aligning to our nature. And so this is where we catch when our hormones are getting out of balance, which is what gives us all those symptoms, which could vary anywhere between 50 to 150. We can catch that and find ways to soothe. And so the architecture of life is based on 5 elements, based on Ayurveda. So these 5 elements are space, air, fire, water, and earth. And these are what makes each and every one of us. We all have a combination of those 3, but we're going to have one that predominates. So that one that predominates is our what we call a prakruti. So this is at your time of conception, take the architecture of your father, the architecture of your mother, coming together, creating your profile and your essence. So this becomes your prakruti. And in Ayurveda, we have the 3 doshas, which come from the 5 elements. So space and air make up vata. And all those qualities of space and air, which we'll go through in a moment, a vata person will have. And then the middle dosha, and dosha, another word for dosha is what do we call it? The mind-body type or constitution. So the middle one is pitta, which is made of fire and water. And again, all those qualities of fire and water are contained within the pitta person, which is predominantly fire. The predominant one in Vata is wind, movement. The predominant one in Pitta is fire. And the last dosha or mind-body type or constitution is Kapha or Kapha, which is made of water and earth. And all the qualities of water and earth are contained within the Kapha constitution or the Kapha profile. And that will determine what also with the imbalances and the aversions and the likes. Because in Ayurveda, we have one rule which is really crucial to understand, which is also used in any type of therapy, which is like raises the like. What does that mean? So if you are a person that is, let's just say Vata, for example, person that is windy and cold and rough, we'll go through the qualities in a moment, they're going to be attracted to that. But if you eat foods and if you surround yourself with an environment that has the same qualities as you, is going to bring you out of balance. So this is why when we reach the stage of even pre-menopause, perimenopause, or menopause, which is the Vata age, which is basically from menopause to death at about 50, Ayurveda says. So it could be a little bit before, a little bit after, if you will. You're reaching Vata life. So all those qualities of Vata are going to become more predominant, even if you're not a Vata. So this is what happens. And so Vata is space and air, wind. Pitta is fire and water, and Kapha is water and earth. And we're going to talk about the qualities because this is really, really, really important. But one thing before I move on to my next page is that anxiety, which is the byproduct of when Vata is out of balance, it means there's too much air. In Pitta, when there's too much inflammation, which is the byproduct when Pitta is out of balance, it means that there's just too much fire. And likewise, if there is too much heaviness, which is Kapha, we think of water and earth, they're both very, very, very heavy and cold. So this means that there's too much water in the system or too much heaviness. So we're going to go through each and every dosha equally. And so what I want you to do, as I go through the qualities, I want you to notice if these qualities are describing you, part of your personality, part of who you are, part of what you like, and then you can start to find an affinity to it. So I've asked you ladies to do a dosha test. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. I highly recommend you to do it so that you can see where you're at this moment. And if for anybody watching, I'm going to put in the notes a link to a really good dosha test, which goes through questions about your physicality, about your the different specific areas in life. So also your physiology, your mental, and it's all the different pillars, and you start to see a pattern because it's all about patterns. Remember, Ayurveda teaches us that everything's cyclical and rhythmical. And so once you start to see a pattern, then you start to see, okay, where am I out of balance? So Vata is made of space and air. So I just want to go through the qualities of space for a moment so that you can tune into that. So we take one step back. So the qualities of space are lightness, settle, clear, soft, and smooth. The qualities of air are dry, cold, rough, mobile, light and settle. So these two make up Vata, obviously. The qualities of fire are hot, sharp, light, dry, and mobile. The qualities of water are liquid, heavy, soft, cool, oily, and flowing. And there's one more, moist, really important. And finally, earth, or priviti in Sanskrit. The qualities of earth are heavy, rough, stable, dense, slow, static, and cloudy. So there you have it. So those are the qualities, and so those qualities of the elements really are the foundation, the pillars to understand Ayurveda. Because once we get into each dosha, it's all about those qualities going up or down and how to balance them. So the vatas, so I'm going to speak about vata now. And so the vata, it governs all movement. And this is all movement inside of our bodies, in nature, in the cosmos. So it's that power behind everything that moves, your speech, your fluids, blood, giving birth, singing, sneezing, absolutely everything behind movement is vata, has that power. So this is why it's really, really important and crucial that vata, regardless of what dosha you are, that is in balance, because it can bring all of it out of balance. The location is the large intestine. So the location of vata is crucial to understand, because when vata is out of balance, the first place to be manifested is in the gut, is gas as a byproduct, and anxiety in the mind. So when out of balance, vata will experience anxiety, depression, dryness, and scatteredness. So on a windy day that is cold, is going to definitely bring your vata out of balance. So this is why we recommend to wear a hat. This is why we recommend to wear a scarf. And you can always spot a vata person if in the middle of the summer rains, they're wearing a turtleneck. So I have seen those. And insomnia is also a sign that when vata is out of balance, and also overwhelm, which is all of these symptoms that I've just described. We're going to experience that when we start to go into perimenopause. And just wanted to note that, because all as women, unfortunately, are going to experience to some extent some of these, even if we're in balance, for sure. So so when aggravated, vata gets aggravated with the following conditions: noise, fasting, not good for vata at all, wind, travel. So all those things are not so good for vata. And in a positive sense, because it's not all negative, in a positive sense, when vata is in balance, the person will experience increased intuition, creativity, forgetfulness, forgiveness, and a high sense of belongingness. And your typical vata person, so when you think of a model, very skinny, very light, they live on coffee and cigarettes, which are terrible for vata. They have scattered meals. They're traveling all the time. So the models, later on in life, they're gonna unfortunately have some major symptoms because their lifestyle didn't help it. So the slogan for Vata, this is funny, is, can I change my mind? Because they change their mind all the time, because they're fluctuating like the wind. So they might say yes now, but tomorrow is gonna be a little bit different. So if you have a Vata friend, then you can understand why they're changing their mind all the time. And in that sense, I'm going to take a moment and take a little sip of water, because I am Vata. I am already in menopause. I'm dry and I'm doing a lot of talking, which is not good for Vata. Hydration, massive for Vata, but also when we reach the stages of perimenopause and menopause, we need to keep hydrated constantly, not just through food, but also with taking regular baths and anything that is going to invite watery relationship. Okay, so I hope that's all making sense, ladies, or anybody watching this. Okay, so we're going to move on to Pitta. So the Pitta constitution, it governs transformation. So this is the power behind any changes in our body, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, psychological. It is what brings light into intelligence, lightness into our digestion, which we call Agni, light into difficult situations. Pittas are very good at coming up with really good solutions, but we'll talk about that in general. So the site for Pitta is the small intestine, and it's also located in the eyes. And so Pittas tend to have, when they're out of balance, they might have a sense of redness in the eyes, or they might get sores in the eyes, or watery eyes, or it's just when the body needs to release heat, it will release it through the skin and through the eyes. So the skin is our biggest organ. So it's common for a Pitta person, when out of balance, to also have experience breakouts on their back. It's also toxins leaving the system. And the biggest byproduct for Pitta is acid. So think of it in terms of acid reflux, or also in terms of the blood. Blood can experience acidity as well. And inflammation is huge. So any condition that ends with eases, so eases is the key word to inflammation. So this is decoding that there's inflammation in the body. Psoriasis, can't think of any at the moment. I'm having a Vata moment. Vatas tend to forget. So again, just any condition that ends with eases, it means a Pitta condition, that there's inflammation in the body. And remember, in terms of Ayurveda, I said like raises the like, and then opposites bring balance. So this is how we also start to heal in Ayurveda and other realms of healing. It's actually very simple. So if a person is cold, keep them warm. If a person is dry, give them moisture. If a person is down, we need to bring them up. So it's actually very simple. And when out of balance, a Pitta person is going to experience anger, acidity, and hot flashes, we do in perimenopause and or menopause, intensity, and obviously inflammation. So keep this in mind. So whatever dosha you are, And those qualities, once we reach the stages of perimenopause, menopause, those are going to be heightened. And so this is no wonder you're feeling like this, because obviously you have those qualities already in you. So Pitta is responsible for digestion, absorption. I have a hard time with this word, absorption, and assimilation. So, and this is not just in terms of digestion or in terms of what moves through the gut, but also what moves through the mind. So how we digest life, how we digest thoughts, how we digest emotions, not just yours, but anybody in your vicinity, your partner, your family, any relationship around you. So it's much easier for a Pitta person to digest, and how they deal with that digestion, then it shows you whether they're in balance or not. If they get angry, it might mean or manifest that they're a little bit out of balance. But if they're able to stay centered and breathe and calmly discern a situation, then their Pitta is a little bit more in balance. And so Pitta people tend to be personalities, profiles of lawyers, doctors, athletes, like high-ranking athletes, let's call them Olympic athletes, intellectuals, researchers, and anybody that loves to study a lot, because they can retain the information. They have the capability, the mind sharpness to be able to remember and retain a lot of information, whereas a Vata person might forget it. So Vatas, they love creativity, but they might not have the organization skills. So this is why we need a Pitta person in any company to help to really optimize systems. But they need the creatives, which are the Vatas, and to make it happen. And the slogan for Pitta is "My way or the highway." Do you like that? Unfortunately, Pittas are the type of humans, the type of souls that are that is all or nothing, is my way or the highway. They, and a way to balance a Pitta when they're hot-headed, when their emotions are high, is to cool them down. Just like a Vata needs to be grounded. I don't know if I mentioned that. So the way to ground, or the way to balance a Vata, is to sit them down, to ground them, stop talking, warmth, oils. And I will talk about that in a moment, yes, how to balance each one. But for a Pitta then is to cool them down, So think aloe vera, think a cold plunge, which is not necessarily good for Vata. And just literally to stop and hold your horses, get a grip, walk away from the situation, breathe for a moment. So breath work, it is for all of the doshas, it is the beeline for finding balance. And I love the fact that we're seeing a lot of breath work as a tool, and it's become super popular, and it's just like everybody's doing breath work. How amazing is that? It's a sign that of the raising of the consciousness. People are starting to tune into the fact that actually not just yogis are doing breath work, but actually it works. It not only calms us down, but it's the nervous system regulator numero uno. So if you're going to take something away from this chat, is start doing breath work, and it start to slow down your life. We're living in a very intense highway life. And let's move on. So the kappas or kapha, So kapha again is made out of water and earth, and it governs structure, binds, and lubricates. So kapha is anything that brings things together, that holds the system, that holds life, that holds structures in earth. Is the obviously the earth that uh, that binds to the roots of a tree. It is the rivers, is the oceans, is the um, uh, anything that's fluid in the human body. Kapha is all of our beautiful synovial fluids, all our phlegm, all of the juiciness, all of the fluid that's moving within your joints. So unfortunately, as we get older, we start to lose that lubrication in the joints because we're drying up. It's just the way it is. So kapha is what brings, keeps us all together, is what binds, is what gives us the joie de vivre inside, that the juiciness, um, the juiciness is good for a kapha. The location is the lungs. So being the location of the lungs and the the respiratory system. So people that are kapha, they have a tendency to have more fluids, they tend to definitely get sick in the winter, because obviously we always have to keep in mind location, the seasons. So remember, Ayurveda teaches you about cycles. So the seasons, the time in your life, where you're living, location, and your company, your relationships. So everything is going to have an effect on whatever dosha you are. So when out of balance, the kaphas tend to go towards lethargy, so not wanting to move a lot. They get stagnant a little bit. The accumulation is a big one for kapha. So they tend to accumulate because they're not moving. Then the body is not utilizing or whatever needs to get out. It's not finding a way out because there's no movement. So accumulation is big. So this is why we kapha people, which are that tend to be your heavier sets, thicker bone, thick skin, they have a hard time losing weight. So these are the type of humans that need to constantly be active. So the one thing for them to do is to not exercise. This is why they need a pitta and a vata friend. And so I've mentioned that they're prone to colds. Yes. So they tend to be slightly possessive. They can't really let go. They have a really hard time letting go. And I always mention this on my talks. And I think it's really funny because he kind of nails it down. So a kapha person typically is the person that just cannot move away from their place where they're born. So they might still in their 50s be living 2 blocks away from where they were born. They're not far away from their mother. And they have a really hard time letting go if anybody dies in their family, which I can accept, obviously, but they're the ones that tend to linger a little bit more with their emotions. They're very emotional, especially around their moon for women. This is why also cycling back to our symptoms when we start to get into perimenopause and menopause is that around our moon, we're a mess. We're an absolute mess. So we need to actually just accept that and just allow for that manifestation, whatever needs to rise up, to let it out. Because Ayurveda also believes that if you are not letting something out, if you're not expressing it, if it's not even moving out of your system. If you hold your pee for too long, or if you're holding sneezing, this can actually cause issues as well. So just let it out, let it go, let it out and let it go, and surrender. And so they could be possessive, they can't let go, slightly sluggish, and they have a low, slow digestion, and they are those steady. So they're the type of humans that are, they stay in jobs for a very, very long time. They may even be might even be in the first job still like 30 years later, whereas a Vata person changed jobs every year or after a few months. They just get tired. Vatas need change. Kappas don't need change. They don't want change. They're the ones that stand in the back of the class, in a yoga class or any class. They don't want to be seen. They just want to participate. The Vatas are in the front and the Pittas are somewhere in between. And they are committed. They are your salt of the earth humans. Those that they love to give. They give more than they could. They give more to others than they do to themselves. They put themselves last, actually, and not always, but and there's lot to learn, but they retain, which is the opposite of Vata. And their slogan for them is "Don't worry, be happy." So that is the Kappa in an essence. So let's move on how to balance the doshas, so how to balance the doshas is also an indication how to balance ourselves when we get into our waves of later on in life. It's the same thing. We just need to bring balance through lifestyle, and especially food. So food is medicine. So how to balance Vata? Vata is balanced through routine, warmth, grounding, and heaviness. So heaviness could be heaviness in the oils, in the food. So the plate of a Vata dosha should be like a stew. It's got oils. It's got that kind of winter stew mode. This is perfect for Vata. And the taste for them to balance is sweet and sour and salty. In Ayurveda uses the 5 senses to balance. So crucial. Vata needs sweet. Absolutely. And combination of sweet, sour, and salty. Pitta. The Pitta types need cooling, as I already mentioned. They need lack or less rigidity because they tend to be really. They need to be a little bit more flexible with their, just with life in general, with work, with relationships, and just to give slack a little bit, because otherwise they're going to be disappointed, right? And they need balance. They need balance, just like Vata, but in their own way. And they need to also move less. So Vatas obviously need to be seated and grounded. And I'm not even mentioning yoga postures here because this could be very long otherwise. But what Pitta person is, they need something cold, and they need to stop moving. They need to get away from the mind and go to the heart to feel more. This is the beauty of the elemental, to keep it simple. And taste-wise, Pittas need sweet, bitter, and astringent. Sweet and bitter are easy to understand, but astringent, think of a pomegranate. That's the best example. Moving on to kapha and what they need movement, they need change, and they need to watch their diet, and they need a pitta and vata friend. The taste is pungent, bitter, and astringent for them. So this is, in a nutshell, the doshas. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what happens when we reach our time of perimenopause and menopause in terms of the doshas. So back to lifestyle. So since we enter the vata age at 50, then we might have to change quite a few things in our rhythm so that to create balance, not just in the mind, but also in the body and in the spirit. So whatever we do, it needs to bring us to a place where we feel ourselves centered, because nobody knows what centered means except for you. You know when you are in that ultimate optimal place of balance. And it's a tweaking, it's a daily tweaking upon rising. So we wake up in the morning, we tune in to how we feel mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. Sort of we're checking in, and that will give us an indication of what we need to do for the day and adjust our food, our environment, our work, because if you're waking up and you're irritated and you have 10 meetings, maybe is there any way that you can maybe potentially shift those meetings to another day, or just do something within your magic to be able to cruise through the day with more ease? So this is part of what we need to find in our later life, is what are the foods that are aggravating us? Because the foods that you may have been eating all your life, they might be causing some problems. And of course, in vata time, the beans are aggravating, so they cause extra gas, maybe, although we need protein. So protein is massive in our later years. Protein and fats are the pillars of hormonal balance in terms of nutrition. And so, especially if you're vata dosha, maybe not so much if you're kapha, but if you're vata dosha, entering vata time in your life, you are going to need to make sure that you are really getting into that ghee, getting into the oils, self-abhyanga, oiling yourself from head to toe. In the winter, putting oil inside your nostrils, in your ears, and everywhere. And just finding a way to cruise. So not just with nutrition, but also with the practices. So this is where routine becomes absolutely crucial. So not good vatas have a really hard time with that, finding routine, but actually because of that rule, like raises the like. So vatas just love to move and change, but actually is the routine that's going to bring them balance. So back to dinacharya, which is in Ayurveda, is your rhythms and a lifestyle plan for you. And so we, depending on what dosha you are, then there's different things that you can do. So this all is tailored to your needs. This is another beautiful thing about Ayurveda, is that we're all slightly different, and everybody's going to need slightly different dosages and different combinations. And so it's a good time to also mention the plant allies. So personally, for me, since I'm not taking hormones, what has been a paramount of importance to be able to find some sort of balance has been adaptogens. And I'm so grateful that I found these plant allies, because by nature, adaptogens, their role in life, and they've been designed by nature to help us to cope with stress in your brain. So these are brain tonics. So we're talking about ashwagandha, shatavari, tulsi, and there's a few more in non-Ayurvedic. So now we know we can tap into also Chinese medicine, which is very similar to Ayurveda, and adaptogens are predominantly Chinese and Ayurvedic based. So I will be sharing a lot of this with you on our journey um, of this journey that we're starting. I didn't even mention at the beginning because we had such issues with with the sound. But this journey is sovereign aging. But I'm going to change the aging word to sovereign wise woman, because aging could have a negative connotation for some women. Some people don't like that word aging, even though it's normal. It's going to happen. But so this is a 3-part series into sovereign wise women and how we can ride these waves with grace. And so, ladies that are live with me, do you have any questions? Please put them on the chat so that I can answer them. If not, then I would like to just take a moment to say that, so this is a journey, a 3-part journey. Next time, we're going to dive a little deeper into this. They get such a bad rep nowadays, the hormones. But I'm not a hormonal expert, but I'm going to just share with you what I have learned on my journey about how the hormones go out of balance and why, and the fine tuning of the relationships, and finding more clarity with that. Because I feel that the more that you know, and it's not just because I have a Pitta tendency in my mind, but the more that you know about this topic, the better. The more that you understand your own nature, what brings you out of balance, bring it back to elemental. So if my vata is out of balance, or even my pitta is out of balance, or my kapha, or whichever, then what do I need to do to come back into balance? And this is normally the opposite. So pay attention these next days on what your body's been telling you. And we already know what symptoms we're experiencing. So tap into how can you nurture those symptoms, which then brings you back to elementals. So what foods am I eating that could be upsetting my digestion, or why am I so gassy, or maybe I need to take a herbal ally before going to sleep, or maybe I need to do a little bit of movement before going to sleep, so that to calm the vata, to get into the fascia of the body, which is also speaking. So we live in a very complex temple, which is constantly speaking to us. And so, are we listening? So this is time. If you have been very busy in your life, as a mother, as an athlete, as a whatever it is, this is the time to slow down and to really pay attention to what's the body telling you. Not from here, not from the mind, but from the heart. So start to make way for the wisdom of life, the wisdom of nature, the wisdom of the elements to guide you. So I am going to, I didn't even keep track of time. So I'm going to now leave you with that. Ladies present, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You know how. I thank everyone and every one of you that will, after this date, will listen to this transmission. And this is only the beginning. There will be 2 more. So look out for them. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. Namaste. The divinity of me vows to the divinity of you. So thank you for being here. Good. Emily, thank you. Thank you, Rose. I'll be sharing all kinds of stuff. I would like to become your agent of, on this journey, your agent of understanding and coming back to just simplicity. And so until next time, namaste. Thank you, ladies. And yeah, much love, light, and bliss. Thank you.